Hello everybody, this is Danny from Deep South Homestead on my Porch Time chat today. I had mentioned to y'all about this Scovil hoe that I had gotten from Amy Sutherland, and I told you that if I found anything about it I'd let you know. Well, after doing some cleaning up on it, I found a little stamp that's on the back side of it back here. You can barely make it out, but with the use of magnifying glasses and stuff like that, I was able to make out the names that was on it. This particular hoe is definitely an antique because I now know the history of this hoe. This particular hoe was started by, let me just start back on the history of it, how it actually came about. There was a gentleman by the name of William Scovile. He was born in 1706, I think it was somewhere around in that area. He lived in Higganum, Connecticut, in a town called Higganum, if I pronounced that right. And his great-great-grandson, I think I've got it right, I think it's great-great-grandson, Daniel and Hezekiah. Actually, it was, I believe, Daniel that traveled all across the South, going from plantation to plantation, looking at the different tools that the plantations used to produce cotton. Well, when Daniel returned back to Connecticut, his hometown there, his great-great-grandfather William was a blacksmith, and the blacksmith trade had stayed in the family down through many years, and these boys had also learned the blacksmith trade, and they actually had several mills set up on Candlewood Hill Brook. And this brook flowed down through there, and they would dam it up, and they would make water wheels to manufacture steel that was used for gun barrels. I think they got a contract with the federal government during the War of 1812 and these different times like this. But this particular hoe was made, that's where this hoe came from, with some Scovil, D&H Scovil. Daniel and Hezekiah Scovil started the company that made these hoes in Higganum, Connecticut. And I just thought that was interesting that when Amy sent me this, I was able to find that tiny little marking on the back of this hoe that is not wore out. Now, one of the interesting factors about this hoe was that when Daniel went back, he, after watching the plantation people working, growing cotton and stuff like that, this was actually the first self-sharpening hoe. He went back and he had the inside of this hoe made out of an extremely hard metal, and he overlaid it with a soft metal, so that the more you use this hoe, this outer soft part of the metal would wear away, exposing the hard part on the inside of it, which would be on this side of it, on the back side. The soft part was on the front side, what my understanding is. And as the soft part would wear away, it would expose this hard part back here, and thus self-sharpening itself all the time. The plantation owners didn't have to worry about trying to keep sharp implements because they sharpened themselves. And the hole in the end of it here, he also designed that particular style of hoe because it was a lot easier to keep handles in it, and the more you used it, the tighter the handle would get on the end of the hoe. And if you was able to, if you broke your handle, like I told you in the last video, you can just go out in the woods. A field worker could go out in the woods and get them another handle real quick like and get right back to work. So that's a little bit about the history of the Scovil hoe. And once again, Amy, thank you for that. I really appreciate that. And today I was going to continue on talking about some of the tools and some of the things that we have here at Deep South Homestead that we use here on a regular basis. A lot of y'all gave some really good comments on the last tools that we use with the sickle and the hose and the history of some of those things. And so I'm going to continue on my homestead here and show you some of the things we use. And one of the first things I'm going to show you is actually a modern day tool. If any of y'all see this, you really know what it is. It's a set of catfish skinning pliers. Most any bait and tackle store handle them. And I know you're asking the question, what in the world does that have to do with anything? Well, on my homestead, when we butcher chickens, unless I'm butchering 5 chickens or more, I don't even pull my chicken plucker out, because it's really not worth it to me to pull a chicken plucker out for 1 or 2 chickens to set the water up and to get the water boiling, just to dip a bird in, to put him over into the chicken plucker to be plucked. It's just for 2 or 3 chickens, you know, it's not worth it for me. What I'll do is, if Wanda and I decide that we want a chicken to eat, we have a whole pile of roosters that just free range around here. And what I'll do is I'll go out there and just take one of the roosters in there and I'll just go ahead and bleed him out. And I'll skin him, so I don't have to worry about plucking feathers. And for pulling that skin off of that chicken, I use these catfish skinning pliers. It makes it extremely easy for me to get a hold of that skin on that chicken, and it just strips it right off. It's not hard to do. It's just a tool that I use here on the homestead. Very inexpensive. Something that could be carried with you just about anywhere. It's light, very durable. Can also be used to skin a fish with, and I'm sure if you needed to skin animals, small animals or anything like that, it's really easy to get a hold of that hide. Even a deer, you can just get a hold of the hide and just strip it off. You're not trying to worry with your fingers burying up in that stuff, pulling with it. So that's just one of the things I thought I'd throw out there to you. Another thing is, on our homestead here, we keep granny ware dishpans. Now, these things are something on our homestead that I think we've got, I think it's 5 dishpans that we keep here on the homestead. They're extremely good. You can wash things in them. If you're doing corn, you can put corn over in them. And we like the granite ware like this because if, say for instance, they have dishpans out there that are aluminum, but if you cut your corn off, if you put any kind of corn or anything like that in aluminum, it leaves a metallic taste in your, like if you're doing cream style corn, it leaves a metallic taste in that corn, and we don't particularly care for that. So we use these granite ware ones. Now we do have some aluminum ones, but that's strictly for like if we're going to be picking beans or something like that. We need to wash stuff off. We'll throw them over in the aluminum pans just to wash them and stuff like that. But when we get ready to shell them out or anything like that, we always make sure that it's inside of a granite ware dishpan like this right here. And there's 2 or 3 different sizes of them. This is one of the larger ones. Now, granite ware is one of those things that's been around since the 1700s. It actually originated in Germany. Enameled cast iron actually began in Germany in the 1700s, and about I think it's around 1850, it came to America, and then from that point on it's just been passed on down and used in this country for all types of things. But like, we'll use this particular dishpan here for, the other thing you don't want to use aluminum on is tomatoes, because the acid in tomatoes, the aluminum will also give it a metallic taste. So we use these to like cut our tomatoes up in when we're making canned stewed tomatoes or anything like that. We're canning them. We can cut them up and put them in these granite ware dishpans and don't have to worry about any kind of foreign tastes or anything like that. Peaches, when we're doing our peaches and stuff like that, any of your acid foods, apples, pears, all that stuff, we do them in this granite ware like this. And also, we have some out there that when we're butchering chickens, we fill these things up with good ice cold water. And as we butcher the chickens, I go ahead and quarter my chickens up. I don't leave them whole hardly ever. They take up too much space in the freezer if I do that. And we put them in here and just let them set in the water until we get through. You can see it's just a good all-around pan to keep on the farm. They're a little bit, I don't know if you would call them pricey or not. These particular pans here in South Mississippi run somewhere between $25 and $30 a piece. But I'll tell you, for what we do here on the homestead, they're really worth it because they're just so versatile for so many different things you can use on the homestead here. Now, that's a few things there. And one other thing I want to mention is, on our homestead here, one of the things that you're going to need for survival is everybody's going to always need a good hatchet. Now, a lot of these hatchet heads I have been found at dumps, so they've been found around old homesteads and stuff like that. And I make my own handles with a draw knife that y'all saw in the last videos there. because to me, I can take a piece of hickory or oak or ash or something like that, and I can make this handle for just a few cents, actually. I mean, it really doesn't cost me anything, to be honest. But and you want to keep a good sharp hatchet, because a good sharp hatchet means you ain't got to work near as hard to do what you need to do with. We keep about, I think I have 5 to 6 of these on my homestead. They're just in different locations. Basically because when I do different jobs, I need a hatchet there, and I don't want to have to go find my hatchet each time. I have a hatchet that I keep in the house. I have one that I keep out by my lighter pile when I'm busting kindling and stuff like that. We just keep them in out of the weather so that they don't deteriorate. It's just this particular style is a very common style used on the homestead. It's not anything fancy. It's just a plain everyday hatchet. But now I do have some hatchets that I've had custom built by a blacksmith. I have one that's made like this right here. It's made to resemble a tomahawk that the Indians used. It has different purposes. It also has the eye on it, like the Scovil hoe does. The handle is tapered. When I get them made, I just take a handle and I drive them down in there. And the tighter you drive them down in there, the tighter they are on the head here. They're not going to come off. You don't have to worry about that. And this particular one here, this one is made out of a leaf spring off of an 18-wheeler. This one, I found a few flaws in the design of it. When I try to chop anything small, this part right here was so large that it would hit and glance off. I like that style. I like the way it looks. It's basically the same thing like the Scovil hoe is. It's got the round circle here, the eye, and you just drive the handle down into it to get it good and tight. This particular one is also made out of a leaf spring of an 18-wheeler. It's extremely hard, and then he re-hardened it so that I could it's got like an edge on it right now that's like a razor blade. This particular one can be used in place of a froe. If any of you know what a froe is, you stick it on the top of a piece of wood and you can hammer on this end of it, and this goes down through the wood and actually will bust off pieces of wood as I need them, because I needed that depth right here to be able to do that with. And it's just an all-around good little hatchet. Now, one other subject I want to talk about, and it's been brought up to me on my channel several times, and that is something that's very dear and near to me, and that is safety on the homestead. Now, if a life-changing event takes place and you get hurt, there are no doctors. You're not going to a doctor. You're not going to a hospital. So safety on the homestead is going to be extremely important. First of all, if you go to start fooling with animals, you need to understand some animals are dangerous. Now, things like goats and sheep, rabbits, chickens, things like this are not as dangerous. But now, you can get hurt by a goat. If a goat has horns, he can hurt you. So you need to disbud them if at all possible when they're born. That's something that I usually do to all my goats is disbud them when they're born. But they're usually manageable, even around kids, because you've got to understand that on a homestead, if there's kids involved, you've got to think about their safety. Now, a rabbit, yeah, a rabbit can scratch you, but that's not something that's life-threatening. A chicken can scratch you, a chicken can peck you. With a kid, that's not a life-threatening thing. But now, if you start handling a big animal, say for instance you've got cattle, or you've got donkeys, or you've got horses, or something other that's a large animal like this, and you're talking to a guy who's raised cattle for 20-something years, and the first thing you don't want to do is you don't want to lock an animal up in too small of an area and try to get in there with him. Because It doesn't matter how gentle that animal is. They can just be the most gentle milk cow that there is, because I've had milk cows. I used to show them. I used to raise them. Those animals are so big and so strong that they don't necessarily mean any harm. But if they go to moving around inside a small stall or an area that's too small, and you're in there with them, it is nothing for that animal to brush you up and pin you between the wall and him and break your ribs, break your arm, step on your foot and break your foot. They're bad about kicking. If one of them reaches out and kicks, he can break your leg. If you happen to be kneeling down, he can hit you in the face. He can actually kill you. He can break your neck, cave your face in. I mean, I've got a friend whose whole jaw is caved in because he got kicked. And so you got to understand when you're dealing with larger animals that there's got to be that safety factor. These large animals are not sheep. They're not goats. They are very powerful animals, especially horses. You get them in too small of an area, you spook them. A lot of times I've seen them climb over corral walls. Large hogs are the same way. If you have pigs on your farm and you got a big old male boar, you saw in one of my videos how that male of mine tried to come over the chute. And I had to go up there and grab him and throw him back in there. Now, if that had been a kid, there's no way a kid could have done that. It could have been a dangerous situation for a child. And that's what I'm talking about. You want to make sure if you put a child in any situation with a larger animal on a homestead, that it is a safe situation. Don't ever put that kid into a small stall or a closed-in area with a large animal, because all you're doing is asking for trouble. Now, this is just my thoughts on the day, for the day, about some things on the homestead, because safety is of the utmost importance when it comes to fooling with animals. And I'm just hoping and praying that some of the things I talked about today may be a benefit to you. I want to tell y'all how much I appreciate you and how much I love you for watching my chats. And from Deep South Homestead, have a blessed day.